In the fading light of the 18th century, a grand ambition set sail from the shores of France. Napoleon Bonaparte, a general of immense talent and even greater ambition, dreamed of an Eastern empire. His target was Egypt, a land of ancient mysteries and strategic importance. In 1798, his massive fleet crossed the Mediterranean, carrying soldiers, scientists, and scholars. This was not merely a military conquest. It was an expedition to uncover the secrets of a lost world. The French army marched under the scorching Egyptian sun, their European uniforms heavy and impractical. In July of 1799, a group of soldiers under the command of Captain Pierre-François Bouchard were working on fortifications. They were strengthening the defenses of Fort Julien near the port town of Rashid, which the French called Rosetta. During the demolition of an ancient wall, a soldier uncovered a large, dark stone slab. It was a piece of granodiorite, not granite, as is often misstated. The stone was immediately recognized as something significant, something extraordinary. The surface was covered in 3 distinct bands of writing. The top section was a beautiful but incomprehensible series of pictures, Egyptian hieroglyphs typed. The middle script was later identified as Demotic, a cursive script used for the everyday writing of ancient Egypt. The bottom script was the key, the anchor, the hope. It was ancient Greek. The French scholars of the expedition immediately understood the potential of this trilingual inscription. They hypothesized that the 3 scripts all told the same story. If this were true, the known Greek text could be used to unlock the forgotten languages of ancient Egypt. The stone became the most prized possession of Napoleon's scientific corps. However, Napoleon's fortunes in Egypt were about to change dramatically. In 1801, the British, under the command of General Hutchinson, defeated the French forces in Egypt. The subsequent capitulation of Alexandria had a crucial clause regarding antiquities. British demanded that all discovered artifacts, including the now famous stone, be surrendered. The French scholars were devastated, with one proclaiming they would rather burn their discoveries than cede them. But the military reality was undeniable. The stone changed hands. In 1802, the Rosetta Stone arrived in Portsmouth, England, to great fanfare. It was presented to King George III, who decreed it should be housed in the British Museum. There it has remained, an object of immense fascination, drawing millions of visitors. With the stone now in London, the intellectual race to decipher its secrets began in earnest. Copies and casts of the inscription were distributed to scholars across Europe. The Greek text was translated quickly, providing the foundation for the entire endeavor. It was a decree passed by a council of priests in Memphis, Egypt. Back. The decree honored the pharaoh, Ptolemy V, on the first anniversary of his coronation. It listed his various good deeds and proclaimed that statues in his honor should be erected in temples. First real progress came from the middle script, the Demotic. French Scholar Sylvestre C. and Swedish diplomat Johann David Gerblad made important inroads. Gerblad successfully identified all the proper names in the Demotic text that also appeared in the Greek. He also correctly identified the phonetic values for several Demotic characters. However, he mistakenly believed the entire Demotic script was purely alphabetic. This incorrect assumption led him to a dead end. The hieroglyphs remained the greatest challenge, a beautiful and silent puzzle. For centuries, scholars had believed hieroglyphs were purely symbolic, not representing sounds at all. Each picture, they thought, represented a whole idea or concept. This fundamental misunderstanding had prevented any real progress for generations. Then, An English polymath named Thomas Young entered the fray. Young was a true genius, with contributions to optics, mechanics, and medicine. He approached the Rosetta Stone as a mathematical puzzle, a code to be broken. He focused his attention on the oval rings within the hieroglyphic text, known as cartouches. He correctly deduced that these cartouches must contain the names of royalty. By comparing the cartouche's hieroglyphs with the name Ptolemy from the Greek text, he began to assign phonetic values. He correctly identified the phonetic sounds for several signs in Ptolemy's name. Young proved that at least some hieroglyphs were phonetic, used to spell out foreign names. However, like Kierkegaard, he could not let go of the old symbolic theory entirely. He believed the phonetic system was only used for non-Egyptian names. His progress stalled, leaving the door open for another brilliant mind. That mind belonged to a young Frenchman named Jean-François Champollion. Champollion was a prodigy, a linguistic genius obsessed with ancient Egypt from childhood. By his teenage years, he had mastered Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Arabic, and Coptic. He correctly believed that Coptic, the liturgical language of Egyptian Christians, was the direct descendant of the ancient Egyptian language. This knowledge of Coptic would prove to be his secret weapon. Champollion dedicated his entire life to the decipherment of hieroglyphs. He knew of Young's work, but was also his fierce rival. For a time, Champollion also struggled, trapped by the same symbolic fallacy. The breakthrough came in 1822. Champollion received copies of inscriptions from a temple at Abu Simbel. He focused on a cartouche containing 4 hieroglyphs. He knew the first sign, a sun disk, represented the god Ra in Coptic. He had previously identified the ES's sound for another sign. He hypothesized the name was Ramesses. This was the name of a famous pharaoh, a native Egyptian name. It shattered the theory that phonetic signs were only for foreign rulers. He then turned to another cartouche, this one containing an ibis. The ibis was the symbol of the god Thoth. Applying his phonetic system, he read the name as Thothmes, or Thutmose, another great pharaoh. The system worked for Egyptian names, too. He had found the key. The hieroglyphic script was not purely symbolic, nor purely alphabetic. It was a complex, beautiful hybrid of phonetic signs, syllabic signs, and ideograms. Overwhelmed by his discovery, Champollion raced to his brother's office. He burst in, shouted, "Je tiens l'affaire! I've got it!" and promptly fainted. He remained unconscious for 5 days. Upon recovering, he formalized his findings. In late September 1822, he presented his discovery to the Académie des Inscriptions et Belles-Lettres in Paris. Thomas Young was in the audience, graciously acknowledging the young Frenchman's success. Well, no. The mystery that had endured for nearly 2 millennia was finally solved. The voice of ancient Egypt, silent for so long, could speak again. Champollion's decipherment was the single most important event in the history of Egyptology. It transformed the study of Egypt from treasure hunting into a true historical science. Scholars could now read the histories written by the ancient Egyptians themselves. They could understand their religion, their laws, their poetry, and their daily lives. The walls of Karnak and Luxor were no longer just decorated stones. They were history books. The Papyrian museums were no longer just curiosities. They were a library of a lost civilization. Champollion continued his work, creating an Egyptian grammar and dictionary. He finally traveled to Egypt, the land he had dreamed of his whole life. There, he could read the monumental inscriptions directly from the temple walls. His life's work was validated under the Egyptian sun. Tragically, his health was broken by his obsessive work and his journey. Jean-François Champollion died in 1832, at the young age of 41. But his legacy was immortal, as timeless as the civilization he had unveiled. The Rosetta Stone itself remains a powerful symbol. It represents the unlocking of knowledge, the bridging of cultures, and the power of human intellect. It is a testament to the idea that no secret is lost forever. The story began with a soldier digging in the dirt. It culminated in the recovery of a civilization's soul. The stone was a key, but the lock was the human mind. The decipherment required patience, rivalry, and flashes of pure genius. It was a journey from ignorance to understanding. The 3 scripts on the stone represented 3 different eras of a single culture. Hieroglyphs were the sacred script of the gods and monuments. Demotic was the script of the people and daily administration. Greek was the language of the ruling Ptolemaic dynasty. Stone's decree was a piece of political propaganda. It was meant to solidify the rule of a young king. But its true legacy was unintended and far more profound. It became the most famous broken piece of rock in the world. Its discovery was a happy accident of war. Its decipherment was a triumph of peaceful scholarship. The stone connected the age of pharaohs to the age of reason. It reminds us that history is a story waiting to be read. We only need to find the key. The quest for knowledge is a timeless human endeavor. Rosetta Stone is perhaps the greatest detective story in history. The clues were hidden in plain sight for centuries. It took a unique combination of minds to see the pattern. Young provided the first crucial crack in the code. Champollion threw the doors of understanding wide open. The stone's journey from a fort in Rosetta was just the beginning. Its true journey was through the minds of scholars. It traveled from obscurity to become a global icon. The story of the Rosetta Stone is a story of human curiosity. It is a story of persistence against impossible odds. And it is a story of how a single object can change the world. Without it, ancient Egypt might still be silent. The pharaohs would be just names without stories. The tombs would be just pictures without meaning. The Rosetta Stone gave a voice to the voiceless, gave a history back to a nation and to the world. The black stone from Rosetta is a beacon of understanding. Its discovery was a pivotal moment in human history. The echoes of that discovery still resonate today. Every museum of Egyptology owes a debt to this single artifact. Every book on ancient Egypt is built upon its foundation. The mystery is solved, but the fascination remains. The Rosetta Stone is more than a key. It is a monument to the human spirit,